What if I told you the best quarterback in the NFL just completely vanished one day? Well, that's what happened to Cam Newton. But after days of research, I think I uncovered the truth behind his disappearance. Cam Newton was always big. As a kid, he was so much larger than everyone else that opposing teams often asked to see his birth certificate. As a high schooler, he attended the football powerhouse Westlake in Atlanta. He made varsity as a freshman, but saw very little playing time. That is, until the team's starting quarterback went down with an injury late in a televised game. When Cam took over for him, he fumbled the snap in the red zone, which resulted in the team losing by 1 point. However, this rough debut didn't define Newton's high school career. By the end of his junior season, he was a 5-star recruit and the number 2 ranked dual threat quarterback in the class of 2007. After receiving offers from many Power 5 schools like Georgia, Ole Miss, and Mississippi State, Newton committed to play for the reigning national champion Florida Gators. His true freshman season, Cam was Heisman winner Tim Tebow's backup. But heading into his sophomore year, head coach Urban Meyer announced he would use a 2-quarterback system to help take pressure off Tebow. So it looked like Cam would get the chance to make an impact. In the first game of the season, Newton played a handful of snaps and even scored a touchdown. However, during the game, he suffered an ankle injury and was forced to take a medical redshirt season, which sidelined him for the rest of the year. But things only got worse from here. In November 2008, Newton was arrested and charged with felony counts of burglary, larceny, and obstructing justice. Cam had stolen a fellow student's laptop, but when the police entered his dorm and saw the computer with his name painted on it, he threw it out the window in an attempt to hide it from them. Newton was then suspended from the team and announced he would be transferring from the school just 3 days before the Gators won the national championship. Luckily for the QB, all charges against him were dropped, but he still needed a new team to play for. So Cam opted to go the JUCO route and enrolled at Blinn College in Texas. The junior college experience was a far cry from the glamorous SEC one. Cam no longer received piles of team gear and clothing. In order to play at Blinn, he had to buy his own cleats and gloves. The team's players even had to paint their own home stadium. But Newton knew to get back to where he belonged in the SEC, he had to play well despite the circumstances. And that's exactly what he did. While leading Blinn to a JUCO national championship title, he passed for 2,800 yards, rushed for 655, and scored 39 total touchdowns. This resulted in Cam yet again being a 5-star recruit. This time around, he received offers from Oklahoma and Mississippi State, but decided to commit to Auburn. Soon after arriving on campus, Newton was named the team starter. In his very first Division I start, he absolutely dominated, scoring 5 total touchdowns, which won him the SEC Offensive Player of the Week award. By the end of September, the QB's name was in the Heisman conversation, and in a late October matchup versus number 6 LSU, Newton had his Heisman moment when he refused to go down on this run play. After Auburn won this game, they were ranked as the number 1 team in the nation for the first time ever. Heading into the final game of the regular season versus Alabama, Auburn was undefeated and looking like they could win it all. However, in the second quarter, the Tigers found themselves down 24-0. Newton then put the team on his back and threw the game-winning touchdown in the fourth quarter to keep their perfect season alive. After winning the SEC championship, Auburn was set to face off with number 2 Oregon in the BCS National Championship game. With 5 minutes left in the game, Auburn was up 19-11, but then Cam fumbled and Oregon got the ball back. The Ducks drove down the field and scored to take the lead with just over 2 minutes left. When Auburn got the ball again, Cam and the offense put together a drive of their own to set up the last-second game-winning field goal that made them national champions. Newton had just completed a historic season, maybe the best we've ever seen from a college player. He finished the year by passing for 2,800 yards and 30 touchdowns while rushing for 1,400 yards and 20 scores on the ground. As a result, Newton won the Heisman Trophy in a landslide victory. 3 days after winning the national championship, Cam announced he would be foregoing his senior season and declared for the 2011 NFL Draft. When draft day arrived, the Carolina Panthers selected Cam Newton first overall. Despite going number one, many questioned if the quarterback would have success at the NFL level. He played on a spread offense at Auburn and never had a lineup under center, something he would consistently need to do in the pros. In college, he didn't make pre-snap reads and didn't have to recite plays in the huddle, which is, when the quarterback goes in the huddle and tells his team to play by saying something like X right, slant 37, jet 36, slant XYZ, clown onto, ready? Heading into the regular season, Cam was named the Panthers starting quarterback, and in his first ever NFL game, he shattered records. In a week 1 matchup versus the Cardinals, Cam became the first player ever to throw for over 400 yards in a debut game. The following week, he broke his own record by passing for 432 yards, which was again the most by a rookie in NFL history. Even with these historic performances, the Panthers struggled to win games. Remember, they had the number 1 overall pick for a reason. There weren't many talented players on this roster. Also, you see all these throws he's making off his back foot? Remember that, because it's going to be important later. Cam finished the season with 4,000 passing yards, 21 touchdowns, and 17 interceptions, which made him the first rookie in NFL history to throw for over 4,000 yards. On the ground, he rushed for 706 yards, which set a rookie quarterback record, and scored 14 touchdowns, the most by any quarterback in NFL history. After this record-breaking season, Newton was named a Pro Bowler and took home the Rookie of the Year award. Cam's 2011 season was the first time we really saw a rookie quarterback come in and dominate. In the past, rookie signal callers didn't always play, and if they did, they weren't expected to do much. But rookie Cam showed us that first-year QBs could come in and win games on day one. He truly changed the league after just 1 season. In 2012, his second year, Newton had a little bit of a sophomore slump. His numbers weren't as flashy, but he did make improvements as a passer, cutting down his number of interceptions. He finished his second year with 3,800 passing yards, 741 rushing yards, 19 passing touchdowns, 12 interceptions, and 8 rushing scores. But the pressure was on Cam heading into 2013. After a second pro season that didn't live up to the hype, some were left wondering if his rookie season was a fluke. To make matters even worse, the regular season got off to a really rough start for Newton and the Panthers. The team went 1-3 to open the year. During that stretch, Newton threw just 6 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. However, the following week, everything changed. In a matchup with the Vikings, Newton had his best game as a passer thus far, completing 76% of his passes for 242 yards and 4 total touchdowns. This win sparked the team and was the start of an insane 8-game win streak. During this run, Newton truly became a star. Yeah, he was impressive during his rookie season, but now he was doing the most important thing: winning. After starting the year 1-3, the Panthers finished the season with a 12-4 record, which won them the NFC South. Heading into the playoffs, Carolina was a 2 seed and set to host the 49ers in the divisional round. The Panthers held a 10-6 lead in the second quarter. However, in the second half, Carolina's offense disappeared and failed to score a single point as the 49ers went on to win 23-10. In his first playoff game, Cam struggled, throwing just 1 touchdown and 2 interceptions while being sacked a whopping 5 times. Newton finished his 3rd NFL season by completing a career-high 61% of his passes for 3,300 yards, 30 total touchdowns, 13 interceptions, and 585 rushing yards. He was also named a Pro Bowler for the first time since his rookie year. Before the start of the 2014 season, Cam underwent surgery to tighten up his ankle ligaments, which sidelined him for the beginning of training camp. However, when Newton was finally cleared to play, he suffered yet another injury. In a preseason game versus the Patriots, Newton took a hit which caused a hairline fracture on his rib. This injury forced him to miss the first game of the regular season. 2014 turned out to be a roller coaster of a season for the Panthers. After starting the year 2-0, they went on a 7-game winless streak. I say winless because one of the games during that stretch was a tie. Things got even worse in December when Cam was involved in a serious car accident that fractured 2 vertebrae in his lower back. He missed the team's next game, but was back on the field the following week as the Panthers were still fighting for a playoff spot. Cam's grittiness paid off as the team won the final 2 games of the season and somehow clinched the NFC South title with a 7-8-1 record. record. In the wildcard round, the Panthers were set to face off with the Cardinals, who had gone 11-5 during the regular season. With help from Carolina's defense, Cam was able to lead the team to their first playoff victory in 9 years, and the first ever of his career. For the divisional round, the team headed to Seattle to take on the 1-seed Seahawks, but in that one, the Legion of Boom had Cam's number and the team lost 31-17. Newton finished 2014 by passing for 3,100 yards, 18 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions. On the ground, he ran for 539 yards and 5 scores. Even though his numbers don't look fantastic from this season, if you watched him play, it was clear he was getting better and better as a pocket passer. When the 2015 season arrived, Cam decided it was time for him to break the NFL. I mean, it was magical. It was just one of those seasons where you had to be there. People love to talk about aura now, like, oh, this QB has so much aura, oh, this QB has no aura. But Cam was literally the definition of aura in 2015. The $1 million smile, the Superman celebration, the dab, him handing the football to a kid in the stands after he scored a touchdown. He was a star. He was the face of the league. I grew up a Giants fan, but I remember he was really the first player on another team that I rooted for. I mean, this is a super embarrassing picture and I can't believe I'm putting this out there, but I went and bought the Under Armour Cam Newton Superman shirt because that's how much I liked Cam. Newton led the Panthers to an insane 15-1 record during that 2015 season. He had 3 games with 5 passing touchdowns and took home the NFC Offensive Player of the Week award 5 separate times. In a Week 15 matchup with the Giants, Cam became the first player in NFL history to throw for over 300 yards, rush for over 100, and have 5 passing touchdowns in a single game. Newton finished the regular season with 3,800 passing yards, 35 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, and the best passer rating of his career. On the ground, he ran for 636 yards and 10 additional scores. What's even crazier is the fact that Cam put up these numbers with Ted Ginn Jr. and 33-year-old Jericho Cotchery as his top 2 wide receivers. Tight end Greg Olsen was really his go-to guy though, but he's a tight end, not a wide receiver. Also, sorry if I look really sweaty, I probably am. I record these without the AC on, so there's no background noise, and it's 90 degrees out, so I'm a little hot. After this insane season, Newton won the MVP award almost unanimously. Tom Brady and Carson Palmer, the runner-ups, only got 1 vote each. Going into the playoffs, the Panthers were the 1 seed in the NFC and had a first-round bye. In the divisional round, Carolina was set to host the team that sent them home the previous season, the Seahawks. The Panthers went up big early in that one and held a 31-0 lead in the second quarter. In that win, Newton was efficient, completing 72% of his passes for 161 yards and a score. In the NFC Championship game, Carolina absolutely obliterated the 2-seed Cardinals 49-15. Newton had over 380 yards from scrimmage and 4 total touchdowns in the win. So now the Panthers were heading to just their second ever Super Bowl in franchise history. Their opponent was the AFC's number 1 seed Denver Broncos. In a game that was supposed to be the high point of his career, Cam's downfall began. The Broncos' top-ranked defense was just shutting him down. Then, with 4 minutes remaining in the game, the defining play of Cam Newton's career happened. The Panthers had the ball down 6 with 4 minutes to go. Cam fumbled, but didn't dive for the loose football. The Broncos came up with it, which sealed their victory. Newton faced heavy criticism for not making an effort to recover the fumble. After the game, he said he didn't dive for the ball because of the injury risk, which obviously people didn't take well because, you know, it's the Super Bowl. In his post-game press conference, he basically sat there in silence, not answering any questions. He then got up and walked out in the middle of it. The headlines surrounding Cam were now turning negative, calling him a sore loser. That Super Bowl was a pivotal moment in Newton's career. If the Panthers ended up winning that game, I think the rest of this video would be very different. The next season, 2016, ended up being one of Newton's worst. He completed a career-low 52% of his passes for 3,500 yards, 19 touchdowns, and 14 interceptions, the most since his rookie year. The Panthers finished the season with a disappointing 6-10 record. After the season ended, Newton underwent surgery on a partially torn rotator cuff in his throwing shoulder. The injury happened in a December game when when he tried to make a tackle after throwing an interception. The Panthers bounced back in 2017 though, going 11-5 during the regular season. Newton's numbers as a passer were still down, having just 3,300 passing yards, 22 touchdowns, and 16 interceptions that season. However, on the ground, he had a career-high 754 yards. The Panthers were back in the playoffs as a 5 seed and set to visit the 4 seed Saints in the wildcard round. Cam played one of his better games of the season in this one, but the Panthers still lost 31-26. Newton started the 2018 season looking like the MVP QB we saw 3 years earlier. Throughout the first 8 games of the year, Cam completed 67% of his passes for 1,800 yards, 15 touchdowns, and just 4 interceptions. He also had a career best passer rating of 100.8. The Panthers were 6-2 entering their Week 10 matchup with the Steelers, but unfortunately, this turned out to be the game that ruined Cam Newton's career. In the second quarter, as TJ Watt hit Newton, his helmet drove into his throwing shoulder, hurting it. Cam continued to play through the injury, but after this hit, he was never the same. Following the hit, the Panthers went on a 6-game losing streak. After the team was eliminated from the playoffs in Week 15, Cam underwent reconstructive surgery on his shoulder. The Panthers never had a great offensive line, and now all the big hits were starting to take a toll on Cam's body. Newton's shoulder healed up, and he was ready to go for the start of the 2019 season. However, in the team's 3rd preseason game, Cam hurt his foot. He played through the injury to start the season, but re-aggravated it in Week 2. The injury then turned out to be more serious than initially thought. It was announced Newton had a Lisfranc fracture and would miss the rest of the season. A Lisfranc injury is when the bone or ligaments in the middle of the foot break and tear. This injury is dangerous because if it's not treated properly, it could lead to the arch of the foot collapsing. The team struggled without Newton under center, and at the end of 2019, head coach Ron Rivera was fired. Matt Rule was then hired to replace him, but the new head coach wanted to pick his own QB. So in March 2020, the Panthers gave Newton permission to seek a trade. However, no team was interested in a 30-year-old quarterback coming off a serious injury. So on March 24th, 2020, the Panthers released Cam Newton, marking the end of an era. Newton sat as an unsigned free agent for 3 months, but then in July, he signed a deal with the Patriots, who had just lost Tom Brady. Cam struggled as a New England starter, passing for just 2,600 yards, 8 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions in 2020. In 2021, the Patriots drafted Mac Jones, who beat out Newton for the starting spot. As a result, New England released Cam before the start of the regular season. Newton spent the first 3 months of the 2020 season as an unsigned free agent, but then his old team came calling. When the Panthers' new starter Sam Darnold went down with an injury, they signed Cam on a 1-year deal. Newton had some fun moments in the games he played for Carolina that season, but overall, it was clear the QB was washed. He lost each of the 5 games he started for them that year. Newton has been an unsigned free agent since the end of 2021. He hasn't formally announced his retirement yet, but I doubt we'll ever see him in the NFL again. So how did Cam Newton go from an MVP to an unsigned free agent in just the span of a few years? Simply put, his body just started to fall apart. In 2020, Cam said the last time he was 100% healthy was in 2016 before his first shoulder injury. The pain in his injured shoulder lingered throughout multiple seasons. After the injuries, Newton's throwing motion had to change too. During the first few years of his career, Cam could make throws off just his arm strength alone. He didn't need to generate power from his lower body. He was often throwing on the run and off his back foot. But after 2 shoulder surgeries in 2 years, Newton's arm wasn't strong enough to do this anymore. He was forced to become more of a pocket passer and get the power on his throws from transferring the weight from his back leg to his front. But even with these adjustments, it was clear Cam's arm was just done. He couldn't make the throws needed to be an NFL QB. If the Panthers had a better O-line and Cam protected himself more, I believe he could have had a few more dominant seasons in the league. It's just crazy to see how fast someone can go from looking like a Hall of Famer to totally unwanted. Speaking of players that looked like Hall of Famers but fell off, Todd Gurley is a prime example. If you want to know what really happened to him and his bizarre injury cover-up, make sure to check out this video up here.